Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of Hatfield Currents. I'm Mike Cahill, host of Hatfield Currents, and today's show is a really interesting show. I'm sure from time to time we've all heard stories about the person that ends up living in the big city, is grown up in the big city and decides to migrate out of the big city to a small town somewhere in New England because he has a sense that he wants to do his own thing. Today we're really fortunate enough to have on Hatfield Currents just one of those people. I'm not sure how many of you know who this is because he tends to be a background kind of resident, but nevertheless we're really pleased to have one of those people with us today. Now this person, we're going to find out a little bit more about why he ended up in Hatfield and why he has ended up staying in Hatfield for all these years and why he's ended up deciding that he should bring his children up in Hatfield. But one of the things that he's done is that he has done his own thing and he has formed a business. This fellow is an entrepreneur. And over the years he has established and grown a rather successful business right underneath our doorstep, so to speak. So without further ado, I'd like to get into the show a little bit further. I want to welcome Jay Smith. Jay is the owner, president, CEO of Sports Travel and Tours. And for those of you who do not know of Sports Travel and Tours, some of you may very well have questioned, what all those cars are doing in front of that little building in the center of town to the right of the former Dairy Mart. That's Jay's company. That's Sports Travel and Tours, where he hangs out probably 8 days a week, 26 hours a day. So we have Jay here with us. Jay, welcome. It's great to have you on Hatfield Currents, and it's probably about time.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So we're going to share a little bit about what Jay Smith is all about, and then get into a little bit of the background of the company and what you guys do and who your customers are and what your markets are and whatever. And to try to bring some of our residents up to speed on one of many such businesses that probably exist in town that we know little or nothing about. So Jay, tell us a little bit about Jay Smith and how you ended up in Hatfield.
Hatfield, we were in at the time. My daughter was a year old, and we did indeed live in the New York area. And we had been up in this neck of the woods once a year for probably a good 15 years. I had a dear friend of mine that lived in East Hampton and moved to Northampton. And we came up for a party every year and just loved the whole community. He had been here for a number of years. I had known him from college. And when we decided to get to a little bit more basic living, a little slower paced, we had made a decision with my wife, Carol, and I, of either Portland, Maine, was one, Burlington, Vermont was the second, and this area was the third. So we came up here for about 3 months, almost every weekend, and scoured every community in the surrounding Northampton area. And Hatfield, I think the greater population of Hatfield has actually been in my house prior to me living in it. At least that's what I'm told. And we had come upon our house after looking for months upon months, and my wife loved the house. I liked the view overlooking Great Pond.
Yeah, that's right, Straits Road. Yeah.
It was up on Straits Road, and we just said, done deal. So we bought the house in December, and we actually didn't move until May.
Right, now this was back when, in the mid-'80s, right?
This was 1987.
87.
And my son actually was on his way. My daughter was a year, and my son came shortly after.
Yeah. So how about the business? Were you in the business at that point? in the sports travel and touring business, if you
I
will?
wasn't in the sports travel business at that point. I actually was running camping programs for students throughout North America. That was my entree into actually my entree into the travel world actually started in high school. I actually majored in criminal justice and was going to probation. In high school, however, in my senior year, I did not know I would end up in the travel business. I ended up, we had tickets, a whole host of people had tickets to a concert it was in 11th grade. And some could drive and some couldn't drive back then. And I ended up, I don't know what possessed me, but I ended up calling up the local school bus company and finding out the price and passed a hat around the cafeteria, collected, I think it was maybe $8 round trip per person. And we filled the bus with people who were going to this concert, and little did I know, 6 years later.
That was your calling.
That was my calling. And that's how really, it was my first travel program. The camping program was interesting. I actually was living in Maine out of college, and I went to visit a program that I had been a counselor on. And the owner of that particular company at the time was only in its second year, was pretty much growing in leaps and bounds. There was not much of that type of program at the time. And 12 cups of coffee and 3 hours later, I was heading on back to Maine with the knowledge that I had the opportunity to move back to the New York area and get involved in this travel program. So that was really the beginning process.
Yeah. So I've known you for, I don't really want to say how long, but almost since probably you've been in Hatfield.
Pretty much.
And I know that the origins of sports travel and tours started at home. I remember when your office was in the house in the basement.
In the basement. That's correct.
So before getting into that, let's talk about the mission of sports travel and tours. And maybe it's kind of your mission because you formed this company to do something for this world or in this world. So
the mission was pretty basic. It was we combined one's passion for the love of sports along with vacation. So it was it's a pretty basic. We have a tagline in our office at this point, is that we create fun for others. For us, it's work. It's fun work, but we're doing the work, and the people who travel with us obviously are hopefully having the fun. The combination of these two really came about. It's a interesting story. I was in this other travel business, and an acquaintance of mine, a friend of a friend, called me up one day. He was doing he was working for an advertising firm in New York, and they were attempting to put out a series of 10 different sports books, and they wanted to try to figure out a way how to incentivize and enhance people buying the book. So they came up with this concept to present to the publisher of having a book club, a sports travel club connected to the books. So make a long story short, he said to me, this friend of a friend said, is it possible to put together getting to games and events along with travel? And I'll never forget my words, because it's pretty much life. I said, you can do anything you want in this world with some knowledge, some energy, some smarts, and you need one more thing, is some green stuff, some dollar signs, and some money. I said, you can do anything you want. So we put together on paper, in about 2 weeks, I put together 3, actually at the time, baseball road trips. They were an East Coast trip that did Camden Yards, Yankee Stadium, Cooperstown, and Fenway, which is still a prime program for us. We had another one that went out through Chicago with Wrigley, the old Comiskey, Milwaukee, that neck of the woods, and then we had one out on the West Coast. And in the first, it didn't fly. The concept with the book club didn't work, but I had already done the program. We were done with it all. We priced it all. I had booked it all. And my friend ended up calling me 2 weeks later and said, you know what, they didn't really buy the concept. It wasn't going to work. So I'm really sorry that you put all this time. And my comment back to him was, it's all done already. We could do this. Do you have some time yourself? And I was living here. My office with my old business was in the house. So we both said, let's give it a shot. So he was in the advertising world, and I was in the travel and operation side. And the first year, we ended up with 99 people. We had 30 people or so for each program. And our big claim to fame that year was that he was able to get a small little piece about this big in one of the back pages in a great publication called Playboy.
Okay.
And that kind of jump-started us.
Yeah.
I won't tell you what the photo was above our little blurb about our baseball road trips, but it did attract people to the baseball road trip concept, and that's what pretty much got us started.
So I thought you were going to talk about the other saying that I see in a lot of your literature, and that's the any game,
any place,
any time.
That's correct.
Okay, so I think that that kind of summarizes things fairly well in terms of mission. But let's talk a little bit about the products that Sports Travel and Tours offers. I know you'll do things for individuals who want to do something.
Correct.
And as you guys can see in front of me, there's a baseball glove. There's a football from the Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's a basketball. There's a baseball over there. You guys have arranged tours and trips to all kinds of events, sporting and otherwise. But let's talk a little bit more about those products that you offer.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, today before I got here, we were doing a program for the radio station. I hate to say this because I'm a Patriot fan, but there was for the actual radio station that carries the Broncos and their sponsors that are coming in for the game. It's just 20 people. It's not a huge project, but it happened just on Monday, and we had to put it all together and finalize it all today.
And this is for the playoff game?
And this is for the playoff game on Saturday, so it was a lot of quick jumping through hoops. My staff was awesome. Teresa Wybrew, who's in town, was the point person getting much of this together, along with the rest of the staff doing it all. The product is fairly wide range. I mean, we do all sports. As you said, it's any game, any place, any time. Baseball is by far our number one sport. I think the major reason for that is more people travel in the summertime and in the spring than they do in the dead of the winter. So it's pretty much baseball, football, basketball, hockey. We do golf. You name it, we'll do it. Now, there's a couple of different types of programs that we do. We do have our tour travel package where we have a pre-formed itinerary that's already set. Somebody looks at it and says, "Oh, I'd love to get to Wrigley and Miller Park and the new ballpark out in Minneapolis, and that's the trip I want." You give us one call, it's one-stop shopping, and it's all done.
Right.
You meet us on the first day of the program out in the beginning city, and from that point on, we take care of the transportation, the hotels, the game tickets. We have a tour escort host that's on board with us, and you just need to sit back, relax, and have fun.
Yep.
We take the hassle out of
So
the whole
just
program.
to take that to another level, in a case like that, if I wanted to take advantage of that trip from here in New England, I would end up having to get to Chicago.
Correct.
If that's the origin city. And
we can help you with that, but for the most part,
which you could
yes.
help me with, whatever, flights or whatever. but that's kind of on me. And then I get to Chicago, and then I join the group, and from there it's...
We generally will have
up
at 3 o'clock in the afternoon a hospitality table in the lobby of the hotel. So you'll arrive whenever you arrive. You can check into your room on your own.
Yeah.
And we'll have a hospitality hours. We meet up with you. You meet our tour host. And from that point, we generally have a welcome reception, so you get a chance to mill around with the other travelers and talk the sport that you're traveling on. And then we head out generally to a game that first night. And then if it's a 3-day, 4-day, 8-day, 12-day, depending on the program, that's the length of time that you just have fun. We do also have, we build into our programs free time. We're not running every trip as an hourly, wake up at 8, on the bus at 9, this at 10, this at 12, lunch at this. When we're in a city and the game isn't until the evening, we do give you the flexibility to have some free time on your own. So we're not running this as a stand. Well, most people in this day and age like that.
They like that. Yeah.
We might have in a city, depending on where we are, a specific attraction. So let's say we're in St. Louis what do most people know about St. Louis is the Arch. So if time permits, we'll include the St. Louis Arch. If we're in New York City, we may have a day game and do a Broadway show at night. So we will indeed add on. There are certain cities we might have a half-a-day city tour. So you're in San Francisco, you might be there for 2 or 3 days, and on one of the mornings we'll have from 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock a quick excursion to give you the highlights of the city. So when you want to, if you're there for a few more days and you want to go back to see something, you can do that too. So that's one part, is our what we call our pre-formed package program. We do also all of the major events, the Kentucky Derbies, Indy 500s, the Super Bowls, the Final Fours, US Open golf and tennis are great ones. And those are generally one location destinations. So you're not traveling from point A to point B, you're just in one location. And then, as you mentioned earlier, our, as we call it, any game, any place, any time facet is what we call FIT. FIT for us means flexible independent travel, where we actually customize a trip specifically to your liking. So let's say you call us up and you say, well, I really want to see 3 different sports. So I want to go see the Bulls are playing in Chicago on Friday night, the Blackhawks are in on Saturday, and the Bears are in town on Sunday. It just happens to be one of those that it fits. We don't have a group program for every single sport and game. So we will customize a trip and we'll ask you some questions. What type of hotel might you like to stay in? Are you entertaining a client, or are you going with a spouse? Do you want to stay at the the Hyatt on Michigan Avenue and be on the 50-yard line for the game? Do you want to stay at a Holiday Inn? Maybe you might like basketball better than hockey, so for basketball you want to be down on the court side, but for hockey you don't mind being up in the upper level to save some cost. So we'll kind of mix and match depending on what you want, and then we send you out a final document package that looks like this, with all of the information that you need for your trip. And if it's hockey, we'll put in a hockey luggage tag. If it's football, we'll put you on a football luggage tag. Baseball, we have a baseball one. So we kind of,
If it's all 3, there are all 3 of them.
All 3 of them, we'll give you all 3. And then you actually head on out, and all of the elements are taken care of. If you want to transfer from the airport to the hotel, you want to go on a limo to the game, you can do that. You want to just do public transportation. So it's really up to you. And that's actually become about 50% of our business, is the customization of flexible independent travel.
That's great. Now you also will put together kind of individual packages, if you will, for groups, correct? I mean, if a company, for example, wants to do something for a group of employees, whether it's their salespeople or people who've achieved certain things, they can. I mean, it's basically you can put together anything for any size group, whether it be 1 or 30. But you're doing that as well. You're working actually with some companies as well as individuals.
Could be from, it could be 222 or 422, but we do customize programs for corporations, for incentives. We actually just did a very large promotion with a Corona. It's a big sweepstakes program, and it was all based on football with a marketing company, and that has been wonderfully successful, and people win the contest and we fulfill on that, and we do corporate outings as well. So, and that could be a group of 8 people on a golf tournament somewhere to going to the Super Bowl.
So we've talked about aspects of your market, or markets, if you will. I guess the market is the sports viewer, if you will, the sports fan. Be they individuals, be they groups, be they coordinated groups, or groups that are affiliated with some other entity. Any other, how would you slice and dice, I guess, that marketplace, Jay? I mean, have I missed?
No, that's pretty much the marketplace. The one thing that we have also achieved, one issue of all businesses is being able to maximize your efforts, finding the customer at the least amount of cost.
Right. I was going to ask you, how do you promote How do you promote sports travel?
And
How do you promote, make people aware of all of this?
And the hard part is because we're not just a local niche company. We're based here in Hatfield.
Right.
Our biggest clientele is on the West Coast. And now with the web, with the internet, it's literally international. We just did a hockey program. We just did a hockey program for 8 people from Slovakia.
Really? Because I was going to ask you
just
about
meeting through our associations. I actually sit on the board of directors for the National Tour Association, which is a large governing body of travel industry professionals from literally from around the world. I just was asked to sit on the board this year, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So we actually have we've actually formed relationships because the demographics and the people that we need to reach is so broad. It's very difficult to advertise. I can't really afford to put an ad in the Chicago Tribune, the LA Times, and the New York Times on a Sunday. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we created alliance partners with numerous organizations around the country, some of them awesome ones, and we're very proud of it. One, which is the leading one, is we are the official travel company for the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. So
That's
when
great.
people, Barry Larkin was just announced the other day from the Cincinnati Reds to come in this year to be inducted. Jim Rice a number of years ago. If you go to the Baseball Hall of Fame website and look for travel plans to come in for the induction weekend, the click-through and link would come to us, and we fulfill all of the travel programs for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yep. If you go to their store in any given time frame and you purchase, there's a shot of the induction ceremonies, which is really awesome.
Cooperstown. Yep.
In Cooperstown. We actually have a VIP package, which is what you're looking at that picture there, sitting in the fenced-in area where the players and the media sit. And unless you travel with us, you would actually be sitting out in the field with the rest of the host
General
of
public,
tens of thousands of people. But this is just a great weekend program. People literally come, the fans come from all over, depending on the interest of the player that's getting on in. The nice part for us with the Baseball Hall of Fame, they are indeed more on a national scope. They do have a lot of inns that we work with. And if you ever went to their store and purchased a T-shirt or a hat, in the bag would actually go one of our brochures.
Okay.
So it's another way to answer your question as far as distribution of getting people to be aware of who we are.
Yeah.
We are also the official travel company for the Football Hall of Fame.
Football Hall of Fame.
And this has been a great partnership from Canton, Ohio. Yeah. It has actually leapfrogged us to another level of our business. When we first hooked up with them, we did run a number of programs. Okay. Yeah, there's a shot of that's the first weekend in August. Baseball Hall of Fame is the third weekend in July, and the football is the first weekend in August. And that particular program has been outstanding for us. Similar relationship. A little younger crowd for the most part. It's just a great weekend of activities. They have parades, they have tailgate parties. It's also wrapped around the Hall of Fame game. It's the first Sunday night of professional football is that particular weekend.
That's right. Yeah.
And that has been just a great partnership with them also. So these types of programs for us has given us the availability to get a little bit broader scope of awareness from fans all over the country.
Right, right, and you're affiliated with some other partners as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but do they not use some of your literature yet use under their letterhead or their logo, such that you guys are kind of in the background, but everything that they're offering, so to speak, whether they be other travel agents or what have you. It's really, you guys are fulfilling those services. They're the ones that are approaching the marketplace, if you will, in their particular area.
That's correct, Mike. We are one of the travel providers for sports for some of the largest AAA travel clubs throughout North America. We actually have 2 in Canada that are partners with us. And instead of sending out our final documents that has all the information with our logo, we have a front slip here that actually has their logo. All of the information is very similar, but it's branded as their program. So we've worked hard in that regards also, in creating partnerships with other organizations that we can fulfill their programs.
Yeah, and that really, it just improves your marketing thrust so much. Without you having to incur all of the burden of doing that, you're allowing these other organizations, in a sense, to be your representatives, if you will.
We are.
With that kind of an alliance.
What it does is it eliminates the upfront advertising costs. We do have to share in the revenue because there is a commission-based.
Yeah, you give them something for doing that.
They have a piece of the action on the back end, but it eliminates the front-end cost of trying to actually find the customer. And as an example, we have the database of the Baseball Hall of Fame as an example that may have 25 or 30,000 people that are members of the Hall of Fame that we have access to, where we would not be able to acquire specific baseball fans at that magnitude of numbers unless we had a partnership like that.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the organization itself, Sports Travel and Tours. You're the facility, you're here in the center of Hatfield, basically providing products and services. I call them products, but they're really a service, I guess.
They're products.
However you want it, in a very general sense, they're products and services both to people across the U.S. as well as now internationally. And you're doing this, out of this office in the center of Hatfield.
We are.
So, how many people are working for Sports Travel and Tours? How many of you are? You have that smile on your face, like there's so many who are on top of each other.
There's not. No, we have a nice office and we have space.
Okay, good.
We could use more people, but it's like anything else. You can't put the cart before the horse.
Right.
We are indeed a growing business. We try to keep it controlled. We do have days like today where we were. It was crazy busy and a little overwhelmed, and we got to take one day at a time and breathe and come back tomorrow and do it again. We have basically 10 full-time staff. We also have one of our staff who actually works remotely. He's in Florida, and we have one other outside salesperson who's out of the Philly, Pennsylvania area, and he actually he just came on board in the fall, and he hits a lot of our travel agency where we need to maintain a relationship. We had kind of neglected that through the years. We didn't have the manpower to actually go and have, the internet is great. Right. Emails are wonderful, but nothing will ever take place of a face-to-face conversation, ever. So we hired him back in the fall, and he's out pretty much pounding the pavement.
And there are a lot of travel agents out there.
There's hundreds still. And we have also about 20 other what we call tour hosts. That
I was just going to get into that with you guys.
Yeah, these are people who actually, many of them have traveled with us as travelers. They want to get involved. Many are teachers. I just communicated with one person who's actually an accountant for a large corporation in St. Louis. She's been a traveler with us for years, but she has 4 weeks vacation, and she takes a week or two and hosts programs. I have a number of travel teachers that it's a great job for a summer teacher.
Summer, right?
And we have a number of people who've traveled with us and who have been retired, but they've got a lot of energy, wanted to get involved. So we've got strategically different places: Florida, Washington, New York, Illinois.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, some of these people have got to be located in some of your more popular markets, geographic markets.
They are. It really doesn't matter. Most of our programs, if we have a destination, starting a trip in San Diego, and we don't have a person there, we'll just fly them there.
Okay.
Sure. So, and we're always looking for good, supportive people to be along with us.
Now, how about the ability to access and get tickets? I mean, I think most of us watching, people watching and myself, would understand how you could probably get accommodations, but tickets to the Super Bowl, to some of the major sporting events, playoff games, which everyone said, boy, there's no way you're going to get those tickets. If you do, you're going to pay thousands of dollars and get scalped and whatever.
You will.
I mean, how do you manage to have access to, when you really say any sport, anywhere, anytime?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how do you come across those tickets?
Well, it's a large network. It really depends on the ticket that somebody is interested in. It could come from a season's ticket holder. We have a database where we do keep that information. Somebody calls us and inquires. One of our questions to them is, are you a season's ticket holder in the city in that you live? Or what sport might it be? And we keep that in our database.
Okay.
So somebody calls us and wants to sit 3 rows in back of the dugout at Yankee Stadium or at Dodger Stadium or Wrigley Field or Fenway Park. Those tickets are not readily accessible by just calling the box office. It could be advertisers, sponsors. You know, we're doing this Bronco program that is just for the radio station there. It's sponsors.
Okay.
So they have access with the Broncos. Because of the sponsorship. So it really is a variety where the tickets come from of sources. We don't promote ourselves as a ticket agency. That's not really what we do. We use our ticket access to drive our travel program. So somebody calls us, as an example, from Chicago and they want to go see a Dallas Cowboy game. And they call and they say, I'd like to get tickets to a Dallas Cowboy game. Our first question to them is, well, where do you live? Well, we live in Chicago. Well, when you get to Dallas, where are you staying? And if they say, well, we haven't gotten there yet, we were looking for the tickets first, we'll try to convert that call into a travel package rather than just selling tickets. The one thing that we don't have is deals. Somebody, you know, every now and then we'll have, you know, a local person who lives here in the community come in and say, do you have any deals on Red Sox tickets? It's not like we get, you know, a $60 ticket at Fenway for $18.
Right.
You know, our $60 ticket at Fenway is $60, and it's going to cost more than that because we obviously have to get the tickets. We have to
processing fees,
and cover our costs. So it might cost $80 or $90 or $7. Depends on the ticket.
Right.
So the tickets are interesting. We've not ever not delivered a ticket to game and event. There is one thing, I hate to even say this because it's not the way I live my life. The only thing that you can't buy in this world is your health, and you might be able to buy better health care. You can't buy your health. Everything else at some point has a price tag. And we can pretty much get any ticket. That's what we do.
Yeah. Okay. So we're back to the company itself. We talked about the employees, a little bit of the makeup. I know you're president, CEO. I think in some of the literature you mentioned another local person who's kind of become, sounds like your right-hand person, Teresa.
Teresa Wybrew is director of sales. She just lives down on Main Street. Christine Engelhardt-Dadman has been with me since day one. She's our director of operations, and she's obviously grown up in the community. We do have, obviously, our rest of our staff is all local between East Hampton, Greenfield, all in the surrounding half hour or so.
Jay, how about, I mean, obviously you guys have been able to sustain yourselves for quite some time, and sustaining a company in this day and age usually means that there's been some growth.
And some setbacks.
Absolutely. There's that, no question about it. There's ups and downs with small businesses. But given, it sounds as though, given the scope of the product line and the fact that it almost sounds like the marketplace is unlimited at this point, provided you can just begin to continue to piece all of these things together and make them attractive to the people who are desiring them, that there's kind of a thread of success that's in growth that's happening. I mean, how would you measure growth in the company? Would you do it by the number of trips or the number of customers? Or
we handle depending on the year, between 6,000 and 10,000 travelers. We did indeed, the economy did hit us. We had 06, 07, and 08 were good years. The economy did towards the tail end of 08, like the rest of the world in 09.
Yeah.
We did take a hit as the rest of the world has.
Yeah.
It's been slowly getting
Coming
back.
back a little. Yeah.
It's definitely been an interesting time frame in the world that we deal with.
Yeah.
Obviously, travel and leisure, first thing comes off one's plate. One of the things that we have found is our clientele, for the most part, people who have the money to spend and are still interested in going on vacations are still spending it.
Yeah.
We have indeed cut out some of the lower end products. They haven't sold as well. Margins are not as large there, so it hasn't been as difficult. But it has indeed been, a push. You use the word limitless, and it's one of Teresa Wyru's favorite words, because it is indeed, it is limitless. If we had the additional, I mentioned to you earlier in starting this business that you need
capital.
some knowledge and some energy, and you need the capital. If we had an unlimited capital or enough to tap, this business could indeed grow bigger, faster. We've controlled growth. We've taken our time. We could do more. It's out there to do. We have the formula.
Right.
To multiply it wouldn't be that difficult. It would come down to space and staff. Technology would be helpful as well.
Right.
We have developed our own software program, and that needs a little extra help too. But a lot of this just is expensive costs.
Right. So have you ever had any thoughts of not selling it, obviously, but to acquire that capital? Have you ever had any thoughts in terms of approaching some angel investors or a venture capital firm, or maybe even another partner in the industry?
I haven't looked at partners in the industry. I've never turned down, my office staff will laugh, but I've never turned down a conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
It's how most things happen.
That's right.
I would be interested in growing to the next levels. I haven't gone. It's a little difficult right now because everybody's a little sensitive.
Yeah.
Any venture capitalists right now are not jumping as fast.
Right.
I think there is indeed some monies out there eventually, and it is possible. If I was approached and it was interesting enough, I surely would entertain the discussion.
Yeah. What kind of new products or new services or whatever do you see? Anything new and novel on the horizon, or is it pretty much are you pretty much in a reactive mode at this point?
I wish we weren't in a reactive mode. We do react a lot. A lot pertains. We're in an interesting business because a lot of what drives us is who wins and who loses. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard. I'm a little jealous about some of the other travel programs in this world who are planning out trips for 2013 and 2014. You want to go on a river cruise of Europe. Yeah. You can go in 2014 right now and find a package. Yeah. I don't have the Red Sox schedule or the Chicago Cubs schedule. I just got it a few weeks ago finalized. Yeah. So we're pretty much, we have a 6 month to 8 months development to delivery. Development, advertising, delivery, and in certain cases, like the World Series, a game could be over on a Sunday from the playoffs, and the World Series starts on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Right.
And the teams, we wouldn't know who they were until they won that last playoff game. So sometimes we're delivering programs in 2 and 3 days.
Putting products together literally overnight, and which has got to be anxiety prone to say the least. You know the elements are there, but you just don't know the who and the where.
I have dark hair on my head still. My beard is starting to go pretty quick. Yes, the anxiety for the quick turnaround is definitely difficult.
Yeah,
and that's our business. That's the way it works. There isn't an option. As soon as the Super Bowl, as soon as the last two teams win the playoffs on that Sunday of Championship Day, Monday morning, our phones ring, and we've got 10 days to get people out to Indianapolis. Thankfully, at the Super Bowl, at least we know where it is.
Right.
So there's a benefit.
I was going to say,
Kentucky Derby, we know it's in.
Some of them are in fixed locations, but you still don't know the players.
That's correct.
Which drives a lot of it.
Exactly. So World Series, the hockey playoffs, things of that nature, where the teams can move cities, is most difficult.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about obstacles to success going forward, and you certainly, we've talked a couple of times about capital. But how about, how easy is it to find people, good people, when you need to hire that person in the valley, if you need to have someone here at the local office, or if it's like another salesperson that you might want to have in the field that's calling on the travel agencies in the Midwest rather than the Middle Atlantic states. Is that how are you finding the availability of people and staff?
Our staff, thank goodness, the staff have been with me now for quite some time. Our turnover has been limited. We had one gentleman leave in November. The rest of the staff, as I just mentioned, Teresa's it's been the business incorporated in 1996, and Christine, Teresa, Keith have all been the duration. Most of our staff, Donna and Chris and Sue, have been 4, 6, 8.
Right, so you've got some tenure.
Yeah,
there,
everybody
sure.
knows Denise Demers. She joined our staff about 3 years ago now after the market, and she's been a great inclusion. We have a good, hardworking crew. Donna, who's in East Hampton, came on board after 20 some odd years of working for an accounting in a firm in Connecticut, and she moved on in and is filtered in real well. So we have a real good, hard-working bunch of people. It does take about, from the minute one person comes in the door, it takes about a year to actually go through a cycle to understand pretty much everything that we do. We had Chris Switzer, who joined us, and he's our internet and creative person that's developed most of our things. And he had twofold. He had to learn our system as well as learn the travel business at the same time.
Right.
Sue Bradford came from the social service world. She joined on, she's been with us 6, 7, 8 years, and she's got it down. Dave actually came as a referral from a friend who worked with an attorney locally. So we've got a real good, hard-working bunch of people, and we get it done.
The business model is not typical by any means, and it's pretty complex. At least that's my take on it. I mean, you've got an evolving, unpredictable product. Sometimes you have to put together overnight.
With a lot of details.
With a lot of details, and to some extent, an evolving and unpredictable customer base, and to have to, it's with those kinds of unknowns built into the model, so to speak. It's pretty challenging. It has to be challenging for someone to come on board and say, okay, there aren't a lot of people that have got that kind of background for any organization. That's you're juggling a lot of balls up in the air at the same time.
It is a juggle, but we have a system down fairly well. It always can be improved. Right. I know when Denise joined us, she was a little hesitant, but we had said we can teach you the business. We can't teach you a work ethic.
Right.
And she had that already.
Right.
Most of our staff, they know how hard, they know it's tough. Yeah. It's work. It's fun. I mean, we get great accolades from people. We create fun. Yeah. We deliver a fun product. So it is indeed one of our great fun things, which anybody who's a baseball fan would love. We created, this was great, we created with the Baseball Hall of Fame a number of years ago, we called a passport to baseball. And we give this to every person who travels with us on our multi-day programs. And through each trip that they go, we authenticate the visit on each page. There's a page for each ballpark. And when they complete the circuit of getting to all 30 ballparks, we actually bring them to Cooperstown on the regular induction weekend. And we actually have a ceremony. The regular ceremony for the big league players is on Sunday. And on Saturday, in the Bullpen Theater at the Hall of Fame, we have a ceremony acknowledging the accomplishment of these crazy baseball fans from literally all over the world. We have one gentleman who was inducted, he actually lives in England, one of our biggest fans. He's been with us for years, Roger Hook. Right. And these folks are it's like they died and went to heaven.
Are there any going around the barn a second time at this point?
We actually have people who, we have a fraternity now of about, we've got about 40 people who have completed this. We have another 20 for next year. We do it every 4 years, the induction.
Okay.
We have another 20 some odd up for it. And we actually have this small little fraternity now that every year there's a new ballpark. They connect and travel together. We've got 7 or 8 or 10 people that actually now come back. They're from, we've got a retired executive from Mobile who lives in Texas. We have a librarian, Stephanie, who lives in Milwaukee. We have another retired 3M exec who lives in Florida. And these guys literally get together every year now. This is their once-a-year reunion. And it's really, this actually, Passport too, believe it or not, it's very special to us. This passport is in the enclosed case up on the 3rd floor of the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So a small little town of Hatfield with the Company of Sports Travel and Tours located actually has a historical piece.
It just goes to show you the affiliation, that you guys have with the Baseball Hall of Fame. I mean, that's really tremendous.
It was fun. This has been just a really fun, it's almost like a little frequent flyer program.
Yeah. How about the facility here in Hatfield? I mean, you've been there for a while. Do you foresee at some point needing additional space?
Right now, no. Until the economy turns, I would love, if that angel investor comes along and we can blossom this to the next level, we would surely need more space. There is space in the back of our office in the other buildings. That's true. So that's possible to extend to at some point.
Which would be logical if that's still available when you need it.
And in this day and age too, between phone systems and computer systems.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit about technology, but you can almost do this, like you say, remotely if you needed to.
You can.
You can be separate in separate buildings and whatever if you needed to.
We can dial into our computers, and our phone system is VoIP, so being over the internet, I can take my phone home, and it's like I'm sitting in my office. I mean, the person who works outside in Pennsylvania, we hit his intercom. It's like he's sitting in the office next door.
Right there. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Go to meeting or whatever that software is, or one of those packages.
You can do that too.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful.
Sure.
It's wonderful. Jay, anything else that you'd like to share with the viewers today about your favorite hobby? At this point?
My favorite hobby is playing tennis, and unfortunately right now I have tennis elbows, so I'm not very happy about that. The only thing I else would share is we talked a lot about some of these bigger programs. We do indeed offer locally a lot of our just one-day trips to Fenway. We do have a playoff bus going to Fox. We have one bus load of every home game to the Patriots. We of course do the Celtics and Bruins, but we do have multiple buses going to Fenway throughout the summer.
That's right.
Which many people actually have participated, which is a lot of fun.
Here's a shot of, I guess, people at, it must be a Patriots game, I assume.
This is a tailgate,
Tailgate,
this is a shot,
Fenway,
this is actually a stadium. This is actually a stadium tour.
Yes.
We do have, this actually was one of we call it the Fan of the Day award. This gentleman actually is from England, and this is at Fenway. He was actually down on the field prior to game time, acknowledging our group, and they allow one person to come down for the group. And he was a Red Sox fan, so we said, you know what, why don't we have him go on down? He's a fan, he's from England, let's give him a crack at it. That was fun. He had a blast. And you can see here, this is Wrigley Field, Chicago, welcoming us.
Yeah, I mean, it's even got you right on the marquee there. Yeah. That's great. Well, a little known company here in Hatfield, but obviously much better known outside of Hatfield, but by a lot of different organizations and entities and associations and individuals. Jay Smith and Sports Travel and Tours. I guess the acronym for that is STAT.
STAT.
And that's probably it's that health acronym in the office. That must be the kind of the atmosphere within the office from time to time.
Today it was STAT.
The bell rings off, and we need you STAT. But that's the acronym for.
Unfortunately, we couldn't get the website stat.com, so we had to stick with sportstravelandtours.com. But stat.com would have been great. It's some surgical supply place.
Well, that would have been neat. So we want to thank Jay for Jay Smith for joining us today. It was a really informative show, and we hope that those of you who have been watching now know a little bit more about one of the small businesses in the community that that is happening and is doing quite well. And one of those that, as I said earlier in the show, we sometimes don't even know exists. So if you know, or if you've often wondered what all those cars are in the center of town to the right of the Dairy Mart, now you know that there's 10 people in there that are helping people across the world literally enjoy their travel and sporting events whenever and if ever and they need to, helping them do that. For those of you who've tuned in, I want to thank you guys for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it and now know a little bit more about sports travel and Jay Smith. I want to remind you that Hatfield Currents airs Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the afternoon, and 7 o'clock at night, and I think 10 o'clock at night as well. And that's on Channel 15. And then you can see Hatfield Currents 24/7 by going on the web to hatfieldtv.pegcentral.com. Again, that's hatfieldtv.pegcentral.com, and you can watch us at your leisure there. I want to thank the Hatfield Currents production team for helping put the show on. And if you happen to be at all interested in how we do this and what goes on here at the studio, and want to help out at all or learn more by being here, please give Christopher Smith a call. He's the head of the Cable Advisory Committee, or give me a call, and I'll try to connect you with that group that can help you do that. So I guess that just about wraps things up for this edition of Hatfield Currents. For Mike Cahill, I'm Mike Cahill rather. Until next time, watch yourself, Hatfield.